Hello friends and welcome on this channel based on movies series where I will explain everything you need to know about a movie, a series that you don't have time to watch all of, or just you want to know the end of you better understand what happened. With no any words, let's start. Today we will talk about the Blair Witch Project, a film released in 1999 on July 30, where 3 film students vanish after traveling into a Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind. The film gave many headaches that had an ending that each of us can imagine differently. We chose to talk in chapters about what is most important in the film and its ending. Let's begin. The Blair Witch Project doesn't rely on blood and gore to be scary. What makes some dismiss the Blair Witch Project is also the trick that makes it work. If you want blood and guts and gory kill scenes, along with sights of a scary witch tromping through the woods after her victims, you're not going to get that. Instead, you're going to get what's mostly a chaotic character study that follows 3 college students, Heather Donahue, Michael C. Williams, and Joshua Donahue, all going by their real first names, going into the woods to explore the legend of a witch in the Black Hills of Burkittsville, Maryland. It's there that they get lost and begin to panic and break down when they can't find their way back out. To fear and understand the ending of the Blair Witch Project, you first have to pay attention to the exposition. The film found a clever way to explain its villain without an info dump. The young documentary film crew spends much of the first act interviewing residents of Burkittsville, where they learn more about the legend of the Blair Witch, along with the story of a serial killer named Ristin Parr, a man who, over half a century earlier in 1940, was convicted of murdering 7 children in the area before he was given the death penalty. Parr had a house in the woods that he would take the children to. We learn that he led his victims down to the basement in pairs, where he would make them stand in the corner because he didn't want them looking at him. It was then that he would attack, killing the children one by one. If that wasn't horrendous enough, Parr claimed that he committed these ghastly crimes at the behest of an old woman dressed all in black, who he met in the woods. She would speak to him inside his head and convince him to kill. Parr listened, but his 8th victim survived. So Parr walked into town and confessed his crimes, and his story was retold over generations. Now let's move on to the next chapter. The Blair Witch Project ends abruptly. It's with this knowledge that our protagonists stake off into the woods. Along with getting lost, creepy things begin happening. They find strange stick figure dolls hanging from the trees. Someone messes with their stuff at night. And in one particularly spine-chilling scene, we can hear children in the darkness giggling outside their tent, causing the trio to run out screaming at what they see, but which we can only imagine. One day, Josh goes missing. Come nightfall, Heather and Mike can hear him calling out, screaming for help. This comes after they find what looks to be his tongue and teeth wrapped up in a strip of his shirt and left like a present outside their tent flap. As the 2 remaining friends run to save Josh, they find a dilapidated house in the middle of the woods. We shout out for them not to, but still, they go inside. They frantically go upstairs and downstairs through the uninhabitable home, and we see several haunting images of children's handprints along the crumbling walls. Mike gets to the basement, but shortly after, something off-camera attacks and knocks him down. The film then switches to Heather's own camera as she screams in pure terror, trying to find everyone. She then enters the basement and finds Mike standing in the corner, facing the wall, completely motionless. Heather screams, "Mike!" But as she gets closer, she too is knocked down by an unseen force. Her camera hits the floor and the movie was over. In the end, we reach to discuss the more intense subject of this film. Blair Witch took a different approach to the villain. For some, this was a massive disappointment. That's it. Nothing else happens. You don't even see the witch. For fans of the film, this ending is brilliant for multiple reasons. One is that you don't see what attacks and probably kills the three friends. If you saw it, you would be disappointed, because what we can see in our minds is always scarier than what someone else could create. A later sequel, 2016's Blair Witch, tried to do the opposite by showing us the monster. While it did indeed look creepy, it wasn't needed. The unknown worked way better. Still, whether you loved the ending or hated it, it's one that did not betray the plot, but instead brought it full circle. We are told, without having it beat over our head, pun intended, that Rustin Parr would make his victims stand in the corner of his basement. Now that's how Mike and Heather have ended up. The how of that is left unknown and up to interpretation. The most common theory is that they have just discovered the Blair Witch. The same force that once commanded Parr now commands them, telling them to do what Parr would tell the children to do. Is there more to it though than just a supernatural force? Another popular theory that builds on the first is that Josh is now under the witch's spell, just as Parr was, and it's he who kills his friends. There are countless other theories too, a few somewhat logical and some over the top. It's fun to wonder about, but here's the real answer to what happened to Heather, Mike, and Josh. We don't know, and that is scary as hell. That is what keeps you awake at night, afraid that the unknown is coming for you next. Here I am at the end of this video. I hope I made myself understood and explained in detail everything that was most important in this superb film. The Blair Witch Project is now available on Netflix, HBO Max, and Vudu. I was Cap Wade, and we will see each other again soon. Thanks for watching.